Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys are doing fantastic and had a great trading day. I certainly did. I love that discount that we got into, but let's go ahead and see what Bitcoin did for the day. So, extremely bullish close, in my opinion. You can see this is Friday's candle here. We dropped down from our open at 63,800. We dropped down to 62,508, and we were able to come back up and close at 63,905 for a $105 gain about. That is absolutely incredible. That shows that there is an extremely bullish bias still, in my opinion, especially because we visited, like I was talking about, Monday midnight open, at 62,798, and we were able to close above 63,752. To me, this is such an extremely bullish sign. Okay. So this is making me excited. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is absolutely phenomenal, and I didn't even think we were gonna get this high. I thought we were gonna find resistance at weekly open. So this is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. Um, Now, taking a look at Saturday. So Saturday's, candle, obviously I'm not expecting much from this. I know I did mention that I was thinking we would be hovering between, 63 to 65 and our weekly open 63,752. I mean, that could still be the case. I would ideally like for us to stay above weekly open, for us to get somewhat of a bullish close at least, right? Would be phenomenal. But as long as we can stay above the weekly 200 MA, I currently don't have any concerns. So, with that being said, I'm going to remove this order block right here since this was fulfilled. We filled part of this. I'm going to keep this up just to see if we have to revisit this area at all. But we did fill up to about the midway point of this order block. So that was quite interesting. And we did get a strong bounce off of it. So just enough to take some of that long liquidity, hopefully before we start getting into this upper area up here, okay? Now, taking a look at our 12 hour, not too much different there. We got some nice tweezer bottoms, and you could honestly, if you were brave and you wanted to play a bigger time frame, you could long those tweezer bottoms for Saturday. I mean, it's not the best day, Saturday and Sunday, but we do it for the 4 hour. I mean, look at the last, if you were to long the last tweezer bottom on the 12 hour, look at what happened. Look at this huge expansive candle, right? So it definitely provides some, basically it can provide some weight by doing that, okay? So, anyways, let's move on to the 8 hour. So the 8 hour again looking very bullish. I mean, this was a very bearish head and shoulders pattern that completely is starting to reverse now. We can still make a complex, just be aware, we can still make a complex, head and shoulders related pattern. But for right now, guys, I mean, I have to say that this is a very much so of a bullish sign. I mean, we're reversing that head and shoulders and coming back up, right? This should have played out if this was a true head and shoulders to the downside coming down here into the 60,000 range, and we didn't see that. So instead, we made a higher low and got a bounce off of it. So that was extremely interesting. 4 hour, bounced off of the 200 MA, another very bullish sign. Your 6 hour is getting that golden cross. You have the golden cross on the 6 hour now on the actual weekly open. So, at this point, you have to assume that, you're about to get an official golden cross with that 50. As long as you stay above weekly open now, this thing can explode up to the upside. Okay. Um, I don't want to get you guys going extremely hard with longs or anything, not financial advice, and it's not the best time to have this happen because we're going into a weekend. But just know that, from past experience with the 6 hour or any of the meso timeframes in general, when you get that golden cross happening, okay, it usually results in some sort of explosive move. And what I mean by explosive is since you got above this, I would expect the 8 hour 200 to be visited at 67,000. So, you're talking $4,000 push up basically if this really does play out like a 6 hour golden cross, how it should. So can be a very explosive move to the upside. And yes, it could happen this weekend. I'm not 100% sure, but just be aware of that. And if you are going to trade it, this is not financial advice, but if you're going to trade something, this is something that we wait for. I mean, we haven't had a 6 hour golden cross for, gosh, since when? Since This was to the downside, so that doesn't really count. But we haven't gotten it since, basically, we haven't gotten it since April. And then we went all the way up to 80,000 area. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we went up to like 80, almost 82,000 with that. So that's how explosive this could potentially be. Okay, so don't want to overexcite you because it is a weekend, that we're getting into, but just be aware of how rare that is. Okay, um, the 2 hour staying above the 21, consolidating bullishly, you kind of have a falling wedge there. Um, 1 hour, same type of thing. You're probably slowly going to get that 21 to cross over. I would expect consolidation. I don't think this is going to provide a really big drop if this were to fall below the 200. This does not concern me. It's more about the meso timeframes right now. Um, let's take a look here. 15-minute, you're hugging the 200 with the 21. You're getting all of the moving averages tight. So to me, this is, guys, I mean, this is bullish. I'm sorry. The micro and the meso, I have to maintain a bullish bias, especially after what happened yesterday for Friday. Um, I am not looking to short anytime soon. This is what we call danger territory for the shorts, in my opinion. You could do risky shorts, but just know that you could be blown out of the water if you do it. You know, yes, there's always a possibility that we roll over, but this 6 hour cross is something, and we can't ignore it. Okay, and that's at the end of the day, that's and especially the weekly holding that 200 MA and getting back above it, that's crucial. And I can't stress to you how crucial that is. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity though. As far as targets go, our first area of resistance is going to be that 65,186, getting above there, leading us into 65,705 and then 66,482, and then possibly the bottom of this order block to 67, looks like the 67,459. And then to the downside, obviously, if we were to make some sort of complex head and shoulders pattern, I would basically at this point look for this order block to get touched, or at least, the 61,124 support line. So I'd be eyeing 61,124, and if not that, it would be somewhere in the 60,000 range, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look at liquidity, see how that lines up. All right, so let me go into trading different. Okay, so when it comes to trading different, let's take a look at our daily. We haven't done that in a bit. So when it comes to trading different, it does look like we have all of this liquidity still at 66,000. Let me make sure we have all of our boxes checked for the daily. Yeah, so I mean, it's still showing 66,000 range that we could get up to. That would be kind of the area that I'd be eyeing for right now. You do have this little speck of liquidity down below, right around 60,500 or 60,600. So just be aware of that. We did call that out, in the trading view chart. So that is a possibility. I wouldn't say that it's, going to happen before we take out 66 or 67K, but just be aware that it's still down here. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. So the 4 hour, still kind of the same thing. You got 66,326 is kind of my first target. Honestly, there's not really anything. Let me uncheck some of this, make sure here. Yeah, I mean 66.3 is kind of your target. There is, I would assume, some above, but there's not any red liquidity above. There's more red again down below at 60,006. So you got to assume that after you take this out, there's a decent chance that you come down here and, take some of this out before you get that bounce. For right now, I mean, unless we can consolidate bullishly up here, you got to expect we could potentially come back down here one last time. Let's take a look at our 1 hour. Okay, so our 1 hour, let's see what this is showing here. Yeah, so I mean, we are above the 200 MA. We're making this bull flag here. We're having the 21 come up back into price action. Yeah, I mean, this says even 100x that we could get into 66,000 approximately. High 65 area. And honestly, even your 50x and your 25x is showing that we could just keep going up, right? I mean, even to 70,000 even practically, guys. So that's a really bullish sign for your micro time frames. Your trend indicator is showing the 4 hour at a -1 and your 1 hour at a +1, so kind of split there. Your 15-minute definitely shows the area to about 65 sevens, almost 66,000. You do have some red to more to the upside, 67, 68. So that definitely is a possibility. But yeah, guys, I mean, I just have to say that overall, I am leaning bullish for the remainder of the week. Now, when it comes Sunday evening, when we open a brand new weekly candle, that could be a different story. You definitely want to see a drop if we're going to have a bullish week. But for right now, I mean, my bias is bullish, right? For the micro and the meso. Um, on your order book, you kind of have a split decision. So you do have some orders down here taking you down to about 63,240, which is about, $600 difference. That's not bad. You have some to the upside though, building up to about 65,000. So definitely you could have the move up. For me, I could frame it either way at this point. I'm not saying to long it right now, but with a low volume weekend, if you had to take a trade, gun to my head, I would have to say that, the more probabilistic move on the meso time frames would be a move up because of the 6 hour. But again, you'd have to, have that bias and you'd have to be willing to hold out a 6 hour time frame. It'd be a 6 hour time frame trade, I would say would be the best one to do right now. I would not personally even mess with the 1 hour or any of the time frames below that. I would focus solely on the meso time frames at this point. Because they're going to provide you the bigger movement in general anyway, if you were to play those. So that being said, let's finally take a look at our simple map here. See what we got going on. All right. So the simple map, definitely showing, some 100x to the downside, right? You're kind of on this node right here, 63,810. You could roll down to the 63.5, 64-ish area. Could definitely see that. Nothing major though, nothing to be concerned about. You're building a lot more short liquidity up here for the long seed up. So you can see that before we start getting into some real resistance, you're looking at about 65,610 is what this bar graph is showing me. So I would be targeting about 65,610 for now, unless we can start to really consolidate and get some more liquidity to the upside to bring a better bridge up. But the smaller time frames are showing that we could get a small move down before we get a move up. Your swing time frames, which would be your 4 hour and your daily, kind of paint the same picture here. So you're looking at about 63,570 is what this shows before you get into some more low volume territory or low liquidity territory. But you are building some nice, decent bridges up to the upside, about to that 65,610 area once again. So this is definitely a bullish sign for both the micro and the meso time frames. Obviously, your macro time frames, you have to keep the weekly 200. We have to see some sort of accumulation related reversal. Um, for me, I'm not going to say that I'm bullish on the macro time frames until that daily crosses that 200 MA or we start getting a bullish flaggish pattern near that daily 200 MA, and then I can potentially switch my bias. And by that point, honestly, you could be early to the next bull run if once we get that daily cross, and as long as we can keep it. All right, guys, that is what I have for you this evening. As usual, if you guys want to use Trading Different and its tools, I can give you a good 10% discount by using my code Sean, tradingdifferent.com/code/Sean. You can get 10% off of your Trading Different tools to get the simple map, the nice liquidity heat map, the trend diff tool, the high frequency bots, everything that you've seen from me and Zen Master JP, you can get with that code. So that being said, guys, I'm going to leave it there for the night. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you in the morning. Take care.